Saddlebrook Ranch. So thank you again for the invitation. It's a great time to be in Pinal County. Very, very excited about this year that we have before us. My fellow supervisors elected me in my last year to be the chair of the Board of Supervisors, and that's a role that I'm actually going to step up on this last year and make as much advantage of it as possible. We have so much happening in the county that I think it's really, really important to bring that information to you. One of the things that we have is a lot of economic development. We've got improvements in our road system that will be shared. But in addition to the traditional businesses and industries we have in agriculture and mining, we have lots that's happening in manufacturing. In fact, this morning in my drive down, I went by the site where the Lucid electric car manufacturing building is being built. It's the steel is being put up, and it's going to be a very, very exciting project. We have a number of issues that we're dealing with regarding the agriculture, making sure that we have adequate water supply for not only agriculture but other industries that are coming to Pinal County. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our subject matter experts, and we'll lead off first with our new county manager. He has been in the job since September 1st, has done an outstanding job getting the county and the workforce all headed in the same direction. And it's my pleasure to introduce Lewis Anderson, your county manager.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. I just thank the board, Bob. Also, I just wanted to say that we do have a couple elected officials in the audience. I did see our assessor, Douglas Wolf. Is there anyone else that's elected? Just stand up or raise your hand. Doug, thank you, Doug. Thank you, Chairman. We really do appreciate your leadership. The leadership is from our Chairman Smith has been very apparent and very clear to us as staff members. He actually was the one that started our strategic plan, strategic initiatives back in 2012, which basically is our roadmap to success in Pinal County. We have several strategic priorities. Those priorities are going to be talked about today. We have 3 of them on the agenda, and they're very critical. I'd just like to say this is a great facility. I'm glad not to be in Seattle today, and I know many of you are from other parts of the country. I was born and raised in Seattle. It's not raining. It's a little cold, but not bad. I'll take that over the rain any day. Our first presenter, and by the way, we do have our A team here. Many of the folks that work for us, we've got 20 directors and 2 deputy directors. What a great team. We couldn't be doing these things without this team, and only this is a portion of who's moving this county forward. They'll present several things that I think you're going to really much enjoy today. Our first presenter is Tim Kanavel. He's our Economic Development Director. Tim is been at Pinal County for 10 years. He's a U of A grad, so that's a shout out down this area, U of A grad. Tim has won, I think he's the only economic development professional in the state that has won Economic Development Professional of the Year twice. So last year he was Economic Development Professional, and several years back he was. So with that, no further ado, I'm going to introduce our famous Tim Kanavel.
Well, good morning, everyone. And as Chairman Smith talked about just a little bit ago, it's a good time to be in Pinal County. And one of the things that we at the county are trying to do, we're always trying to make things better, make better for everybody, not just certain people and not certain areas, but for everybody. And economic development and okay, this is the most plain definition of economic development there is. And basically what it is, we're trying to make the quality of life in this county better for everybody. And we start that with having very good jobs, very good sustainable jobs, good industries, good safe industries. And certainly it brings everybody up. As the old saying goes, rising tide floats all ships. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We may not be getting a 500-acre, 1 million square foot facility in Apache Junction, but the whole entire county makes good of that. And that's something that we're really trying to do, is how do we include everybody and how can we make it better certainly for everybody. And that's something that we try to strive for every day. But again, so this is if anybody ever wants to know what economic development is, this is about the most base you can get. Oh, it gets longer and bigger, and everybody's kind of got a different, but really it's truly just economic well-being and quality of life. That's really what it's all about. Our mission statement, as you can see for the county, and our vision statement, it truly reflects exactly what we're talking about. I don't want to trip and fall down here. Okay, here's kind of the lifeblood, where we're at in the county today. I'm sorry. I thought I can yell loud enough. Is that better? Okay. So for the county, we're at about 475,000 people now. When I first started, we were just simply a little bit over 300,000 10 years ago. So now we're at 475. Third most populated county in the state. 2.9% steady growth rate. That really has been there all these years. Even during the downturn, it's always been about a little bit less than 3%. So we're gaining anywhere from 12,000 to 15,000 people a year. It kind of flakes every time, but some years we have a little bit better growth. Every time we have a big snowstorm and blizzards back east, we always get a lot more big hurricanes or something. It always adds to it. Our current workforce now is just shy of 190,000 people. So we're a little bit more than a third. Usually in economic development terms, you always go a third of your workforce, a third of your total population is your workforce. So we're a little bit better than that. We've got quite a good workforce that we have. As you can see, our unemployment rate now is at 4.6%. It got down as low last year in May as 4.1, but our historical high was 13.2%. 13.2%, which is just extraordinarily high. And that's something that we really try to have been working with, and it has just gone down and down and down. As our economic development program has gone up and up, the unemployment rate's gone down. There we go. Okay, our county focus on economic development. As you see, these are the reasons why we focus on economic development. Again, trying to raise the quality of life and make it better for everybody. Raises quality of life, lowers poverty rates. Right now, we have the lowest poverty rate in the entire state of Arizona out of all 15 counties. That's something really for the supervisors to be proud of. That has dropped dramatically. When I started, it was around 17%. So it has really, really dropped. It's done a very good job for that. Creates a dynamic live, work, and play communities. Now that simply means we got to have good affordable homes, we got to have a good safe place to live, we've got an incredible sheriff's office, and even our different communities have a great police force. Work, that's what my charge is. I'm to go out and try to create the jobs and those things necessary so that we can afford to be able to live here and enjoy this type of lifestyle that we have. And of course, play. Everybody forgets that it's not all about putting in factories and everything, it's also about tourism. And that's one of the big pushes that the county has done in the last couple of years, is really going with the tourism. There is a tremendous amount of things to do in this county that hardly anybody knows about. Well, we're solving that problem. We're doing a tremendous job right now of marketing this. We're going to be marketing this thing globally, certainly into Mexico and to Canada, because we have so many people from both countries here. But we also have people coming in from Asia. We also have people coming in from Europe all the time. So that's one of the things we're really pushing is tourism. And believe it or not, everybody doesn't think, there is a tremendous amount to do in this county. You could do this stuff every weekend. You wouldn't have to leave this place for a long time. And that's what we want you to do. We want people to come here, spend their money. And don't let anybody forget, tourism is a base industry, just like manufacturing. Don't ever forget that. Maybe a little bit lower wages, but we need that type of what we call play. So it's live, work, and play. Sorry about that. Workforce development. Every time we get a client come in, the very first thing they ask for is workforce development. Where are we going to get the employees for what we're looking? Nikola Motors needs around 2,000 people. Lucid Motors already coming out of the ground. They need over 2,000. We have some others just about as big. Where are we getting these employees? Well, certainly we have a workforce right now in our county that about 100,000 people or more leave this county every day to go work somewhere else. where it's mostly in Maricopa County, but some in Pima, and also in Gila County and even up to Yavapai County. Long drive, but some people do make it for that. So, well, that's one of the things we can do is kind of bring some of that back, which we're done with these great big jobs that we're bringing in. But another one, too, is the fact that where we're located probably one of the most unique places in the United States of America to be between two giant metro areas with all the assets we have, because it's easier to get from Albuquerque in northern part of Tucson, probably to Casa Grande, it is, believe me, from Albuquerque in northern Tucson to get into Tucson or downtown Phoenix. If you ever try to go to Phoenix in the morning, that's a trip in itself, let me tell you. And that's something that we really have to take consideration of. We need to bring that workforce back, and it also helps us with the retail leakage too, because people tend to buy where they work. And if they work in Maricopa County, they tend to buy there too. So that's one of the things we're trying to correct. We're working with Andy Smith, and he'll give a little bit more about this too, with our roads and stuff. We make our roads better, and then we'll be able to keep some more of these employees too. Okay, workforce development. That, again, that's our number one. What are we going to do with it? So we've got to train them and everything else. Now, there used to be such a big emphasis on college education. There still is. And if you want to go to college, we'll certainly help you do that. But 95% of all the jobs that's going to be created in the United States of America in the next 10 years are going to be non-degreed jobs. Now think of that, 95%. That was released by the United States Department of Commerce figures. Because let me tell you, what they're looking for is it's going to be high technical jobs, but you won't need a degree for that. Out of the 2,200 jobs that Lucid Motors are going to create, only 200 of them will require a degree. The other 2,000 won't. Same thing with Nikola Motors, they're almost a matching pair of different companies, but they still have the same workforce needs. So about 2,000 or 200 of those people at Nikola Motors be the same thing. So there's a huge emphasis right now on what they call the trades, and that's what we got to have, folks. We don't have anybody that can operate bulldozers. We don't have any people that can help build houses. We don't have anybody that has those trade plumbers, welders. We got welders right now that are making $65,000 and $75,000 a year. That was unheard of not that many years ago. But the trades are really starting to come back, and we need those type of employees. And again, not everybody wants to go to college and end up $100,000 in debt. So this is a very good way for them to make a very good money, a very good living for their entire career, but also to be able to have and still be able to live here. Instead of what we had a few years ago when I first came on, we had an 85% what they call brain drain. I don't know if you ever heard that term before, but that meant all our brightest and best high school students would leave, go to college, and never come back. Now these kids, we're going to give them the opportunity. They can come back here, live with their family, stay within the family unit, and they could also be able to have a very, very good living. You know, two people making $80,000 in one household is a very high income level here in this county. Maybe not in downtown San Francisco, but it certainly is here. Okay, making history. This truly was making history for us. And the reason I put this down is our marketing. Up until just about 6-7 years ago when the new supervisors come in, when we went from 3 to 5, we never had a marketing program ever in this county. In 100 and some years, we just never had a marketing program. We have a very highly developed program now. It's award-winning. We've created videos that got in first place in the state and things like that. But our marketing now, we go globally with it. We've got these huge brochures we do. We do everything online. We've got a great amount of assets that we market. So this really, truly is what's really helping us out quite a bit is our marketing. Because how do you know anything about Pinal County if you don't market it? Well, I don't know how that was ever accomplished before because it simply wasn't. But I can tell you, and our sheriff just told us the other day, he even goes back east, folks. Everybody knows, they've heard of Pinal County. May not always be able to spell or pronounce it right, but they do know about Pinal County. And that's something that we just never got that notoriety before, for sure. It was always negative before, but now it's very positive. Did anybody get a chance over the weekend to see the big Arizona Republic article that we had in the paper? For the ones, if you get a chance, take a look at it, and I can also send it to the gentleman here. It's a PDF file if you want to download it. But this takes up 2 pages in Arizona Republic. It starts on the front page, then inside on page 6 and 7, I think, takes up both pages. That is incredible for Pinal County to get that type of press coverage. And it talks about all the good things going on, all the big projects we got going on, and we'll give you an update on those here real quick. So anyway, this is really big for Pinal County. We're really starting to get noticed, And these are some giant projects, because you know they're all about $1 billion here and $1 billion there. And after a while, that adds up to some serious dollars. So that's one of the things we're really taking a look at, is how do we keep sustaining that, but also how do we maintain our recruiting efforts and everything. It all has to do with marketing. We've been very pleased with these folks. I understand that we've got a brand new chief information officer that's come on board. We're even going to be adding to our marketing. Once this person gets in place and everything, I'm looking forward to this. This is something we can really even do more. And that's something that everybody will be appreciative of. Again, the goal is to promote and increase economic development for the entire county, not just bits and parts. We kind of get told about that. Well, you don't do something here, you don't do something. Well, again, right now, most of the projects I'm getting have to have rail service, and they have to be about 500 acres. Well, they're just not available everywhere. So that's one of the things we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure everybody's covered. Tourism, just mentioned that. As a matter of fact, a lot of the big events that's been around here lately, we've been the primary sponsor for them. Some of these big bike races, one just happened. We've got 2, 3 more coming up. We're really getting into how do we promote this. And then we're working with Moses and the folks down in Tucson also. This Route 77 starts right here at the county line, goes all the way up to the Arboretum, and this will be called, we don't know exactly what we're going to be calling the exact name, but it'll be like the Adventure Corridor. You want to go rock climbing, you want to go mountain climbing, you want to go hiking, you want to go biking, you want to go off-roading, you want to go horseback riding, you name it, it's available in this area. So we're really going to be pushing this. Right now we have what's called a tourism visitor's guide, first one we ever did. It's going to be printed up next week and be available. We'll bring a whole bunch down so everybody can take a look at it. It covers the entire county. But folks, there's a lot here. But you got to you got to leave your house to go do it. You got to go see it. And as we tell a lot of people, this county is an active county, and we want you to get off the couch and go see these things. We tell the younger folks, turn your Xbox off and get outside and take a look at this, because you can't do everything online like that. Okay, this is what everybody wants to hear about. All the big projects and stuff that we're working on. Lucid Motors, if you get a chance, go to Casa Grande. This thing is coming out of the ground. These guys are working on this project right now 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. They keep telling us they want to be kicking cars out there at the end of December. These beautiful big total electric cars. But anyway, if you get a chance, and there's a picture in the paper in the Arizona Republic article, and it talks about that. And I tell you what, they're going to, the first building you're working on is about 1 million square feet. They'll have multiple buildings around that area because it's 500 some acres. But anyway, so this project is going forward, and it's going fast forward because, again, they're working as fast as they can to put this up. Nikola Motors, they have yet to announce exactly when they're going to be starting construction, but they've already bought the property, and it's located in the very southern end of Coolidge, which is just north of the interstate, that brand new interchange there, they call it the Picacho interchange. It's just north of it, just on the east side of the railroad tracks. So if you get a chance to drive up through there, it's basically across from the prisons that you see there at Eloy. Atessa, they've also announced that they're going to start their construction of the first racetrack later on this year. I don't know exactly when, but they're going to be starting on that. That is a 2,500 acre complex. This is going to be one of the biggest race facilities in the United States. May not be the biggest, but it's going to be one of the biggest. And this is something we're really looking forward to. People like those off-road, people like all kinds of driving experiences and stuff. They'll have road course, they'll have an oval track out there. I believe at one time they talked about it. So there's going to be some opportunities there to go see a lot of local stuff. And that'll certainly add to our tourism also. Green Gas Partners. This is a company that is taking, believe it or not, in the county we've got about 380,000 cows. So almost everybody could have their own pet cow if they wanted it. But I'm serious. And what does the cow do every day? Well, they produce a whole lot of stuff. So they take this cow manure and they put it in these giant digesters. These are mechanical stomachs. They redigest it. They add bacteria to it. It creates the methane. They extract the methane out, put it in the Kinder Morgan line. They go straight to California. And that's what the Caltrans over there, their bus service, is using compressed natural gas. That's where it comes from. So that's a great opportunity. We can take our cow crap, send it to California, and they'll pay us for it. So we think that's a really, really good. Yeah, I agree. We always think that's a really, really good idea. And we're building a second one, so we're going to hit them twice. So that's even better yet. So LKQ, have you ever went into like any type of auto parts store, O'Reilly's, AutoZone or something, bought anything that's rebuilt? They probably did it. They're the largest remanufacturer of auto parts in the United States. It's called LK. I don't know what it stands for, but they're huge. They've got a great big place in Casa Grande that it's been operating for just about 9 months to a year full blast. And what they do, they have salvage yards, not wrecking, salvage yards all over the United States, and they take parts and they rebuild all these things. So it's an incredible opportunity for recycling parts. We don't destroy them, and just junk and trash. So we'll be able to do that. And it's a huge company. They actually were going to go in downtown Phoenix, and they said that there were too many issues up there to deal with. They come down to Casa Grande, they got this thing built. When they thought in Phoenix it was going to take them 3 years, they got it built there in just a few months. So that's quite a testament to Casa Grande for sure. Resolution Copper, that's a great big copper mine that's going up near Superior. That thing is going absolutely fast forward. Those folks have spent almost $3 billion and haven't made a penny yet out of the copper. That's no pun intended, but they haven't made a single cent at this big copper mine, and they've already spent almost $3 billion for the infrastructure on it. But this thing is going to hire around 2,500 people. They've already got about 400 people on contract right now. So they are really getting with it. They want to make this happen, but they still won't be full blast probably for another 4 or 5 years. So you can imagine it takes a long time for some of these big projects to occur. Sievertson Screens. This is a very, very good story with these folks. They were originally located in Mesa in about 5 different buildings. They consolidated down into Santan Valley. This is the largest family-owned movie screen manufacturer in the United States. They probably did this one because they're about the only ones that ever do anything of that size. And these folks do home studio ones. They'd make big ones. The biggest one they made was 250 by 300, and that was the one that you've seen on the Russian Olympics. I think it was at Sochi. There's a big screen. They're the ones that furnished that screen. They had to send a whole team of folks over there to help install that thing. But that's right now in Santan Valley. We just took a tour of that last week. It's an incredible opportunity, totally and completely family owned. And let me tell you, they're great folks. And boy, I'll tell you what, they've really done a great job up there. Pinal Air Park. A lot of things are happening at Pinal Air Park, and that's always a good thing. We've got a different company that's taking a look at that up there. I know, Louis, we're paving the racetrack and things out there. There's a shooting range. There's all kinds of things out there. So that we're just adding to it. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time to work on something that massive. But anyway, so that's going to be improving. We hope to bring in at least another company that's been contacting us now off and on for the last 2-3 years. It'll be fairly sizable. Hopefully that'll go forward and go with that. But there's a lot of things. And of course, Miranda's talking about annexing about 3,000 acres around it. So they'll be coming past our county line. They're already in our county anyway, just a little chunk, about a square mile. And they're going to be taking in around 3,000 acres is what they want to annex. Now, I don't know how far along that annexation process is, but I know they've started it. I know they're working with state land because a lot of it's state land that they'd have to annex. So anyway, so a lot of good things happen around the air park. Solar projects, we've got a tremendous amount of solar projects in our county now. And that goes with down here at the bottom, the greening of Pinal County. You know, everybody thinks all we want to do is put smokestacks up. We don't have a single smokestack of anything we're doing. But the thing is, we have to be very responsible. You know, we owe it to our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and on down the line of leaving some type of a good world to be able to live in and be able to breathe. And one of the things we're doing is we're really going after, just like I said, green gas partners. So we're using that as sustainable. So we can take that element out. Then we also have a lot of solar projects. So that green energy is really a good thing. We also have an ethanol plant over in Maricopa. That's basically a big corn squeezins plant. They bring in about 120 train car loads of grain every week, I believe it is, from the Midwest. They come in and process it. They take that, they extract the fuel out of this, how they do it out of the seeds. I don't know how they do it out of the grain. Then they feed the grain and stuff to the cattle, which creates the manure, which goes into these digesters, which gets into California. So you can see it's a huge circle how this thing works. It's really amazing how this all puts together. And that's what we want to do. We want to try to get to sustainable stuff. You know, we've got to be very conscious about our environment for the future, and even not even just the future, even for today. And that's something that's really, really great to look at. But we've got one of our solar projects is going to be right next to Nicola. It's 1,100 acres. It's a giant. But we already have, I think, right now around 4,000, 5,000 acres of solar in our county already. That's already up in production. At one time, the one in just right outside of Coolidge by our fairgrounds was the first Tesla battery storage solar field in the United States. That lasted for about 2 weeks, so nothing got built. But that's what we're doing now. So they're doing solar. They're creating the juice, and if they can't get, they store it in these great big monster Tesla batteries that are 10 megawatt. So it's a great opportunity to be able to see this sustainable and environmental friendly. That's something we're taking a look at. Just a couple more. We got the big video projects. We've got several of them right now. The three that we have that are the award-winning ones were tourism-based. One we got right now is for what we're doing to recruit companies. And we approached the governor's office, and Governor Ducey agreed to 25 seconds to add to this video. These videos are only 2 minutes and 31 seconds long. He gave us over 2 minutes. He threw away the script and just kind of did it ad-libbed, and that's what's going to be coming out in 2 weeks. We'll have that video out. And it's going to talk about recruiting and how good Pinal County is doing and how to get businesses here. So for the governor to do that for us was extremely appreciative, because let me tell you, he only agreed to 25 seconds and he gave us over 2 minutes. That is a lot in a video, I can tell you, because it's going to take up almost all of it. So that'll be something I think everybody will want to take a look. We'll be able to show it maybe next time we're here. So the last one we're going to talk about is Arizona Innovation Technology Corridor. I'm working with the U of A right now, the McGuire Center for Entrepreneurship, which is now associated with the University of Arizona Science and Tech Park. Because what we've done, we have dedicated, and we've already purchased a name through the patent office, of taking from where Pinal County meets Maricopa County, just about Riggs Road, down Interstate 10, all the way to U of A's Science and Tech Park, southeast part of Tucson. That is going to be a huge innovation technology corridor. We've already got a tremendous amount of companies in there already. And what this is this project is estimated by the U of A to be, it'll take 35 years to complete with all the land resources that we have, the infrastructure we've got in place. So it's a 35-year project, which will bring in an estimated close to $70 billion worth of high-tech companies within there. And then it'll create about 100,000 new tech jobs. That's the whole plan behind this. Now, everybody thinks that's a little bit far-fetched. There's a lot of these corridors across the United States that are very, very successful as well, but not many have between two big metro areas, two huge universities, the University of Arizona and the University or Arizona State, plus all the different community colleges and all the tech colleges that we've got in between. We've got the rail, we've got the interstate system. We may even get another Interstate 11, which I add to it, but we already can get into Southern California through 8 and through Interstate 10. We can go all the way to Jacksonville, Florida on Interstate 10. Within a 450-mile radius of where Interstate 10 and 8 meet, there are 75 million people live within that 400-mile radius. That's a tremendous amount of market area. So that's the reason why we're focusing on this corridor. We're going to be a good alternative for California, because the restrictions over there are just compounded daily, it sounds like. But anyway, we're a little bit more freer on that. We just think it's a better opportunity, and that's something I think we're really going to focus on. But you'll hear more about this the next time we come and do a presentation, because we just got started on this big corridor. This thing's going to take, it'll be there long, long after all of us are all gone. Well, maybe not Lewis, but anyway, the rest of us will be. So anyway, thank you very much. I know my time's up. We got somebody else that I know wants to do this, but we'll have questions later on. If you have anything, just let me know. Thank you very much.
Wow. Yeah, now you can see why he wins Economic Development of the Year. We actually just got Tim some help. He's been the one-person team for the last 10 years or 8 years or so. And Stephanie Mack from our team just joined him. So more to come from Tim, I'm sure. A couple of, yeah, Steph, stand up, Steph. Stephanie actually was my executive assistant in the office, and she and Tim get along well with, I can't believe all the calls that Tim gets each day, and so this is a really good team, and we look forward to more occurring here in the near term. A couple of things I wanted to follow up the Tim's presentation. Great job, Tim. Patel Air Park, we actually do tours out there. It's quite an interesting air park. It's Pinal County owns the facility. It's off Patel Air Park Road and I-10. A lot of people think it's the old boneyard, but it's not. It's actually a recycling and tear down facility. We have a lot of the MAX 8 that are grounded. It's a storage facility. A lot of aircraft in the United States and the world are leased, and so we store them there because we have the good weather. And we generate a rent there, and then we reinvest that into the air park. But if you call Public Works in Scott's group, in his team, he can arrange for a tour out at the Patel Air Park. We have a restaurant. As Tim said, it used to be a CIA base. And up until 5 years ago, there was no access. And up until a year ago, we weren't in favor with the FAA, which we are now. So we'll be able to obtain grants and other things through that being certified, thanks to the board and their efforts renegotiating our lease with the folks out there at Patel. So that's Patel. The other thing that I wanted to preface is that Tim talks a lot about that Arizona Tech corridor, but I have to say it hasn't been vetted by our Board of Supervisors completely just yet because it's stuck at the U of A's legal department, and it's been there for a couple of months. So we're really excited about it. We do have the name, but that hasn't officially been signed on the dotted line with my chairman and the Board of Supervisors. So that's it. Great job, Tim. Next up, Scott Bender. Scott is our Public Works Director, also our County Engineer. He served as my Deputy Director in Public Works for 6 years. Scott's a graduate of NAU. He has his PE, and he's been with Pinell County for 12 years. Scott?
Okay, so I timed out my presentation. It's about 3 times as long as Tim's, but I'll try. No, I'm just kidding. It's definitely not. So just highlighting some of the recent activity that's gone on down around here. In the summer of 2019, we completed some improvements to Parklink Drive, and these were the western part near the canal and I-10, working your way towards Pecan Drive and the access to the landfill. That was one chunk. Parklink, it's like eating an elephant. You just got to do it one chunk at a time. So we have another chunk coming up that I'll mention on the next slide, I believe. Some roadway striping that we've done in the area. We did Edwin Road, and that was between Eagle Crest Ranch Boulevard and Columbus Road. We did Lago del Oro Parkway, and that was from Edwin Road to Acacia Hills Lane, and Eagle Crest Ranch Boulevard between State Route 77 and Saddlebrook Boulevard. Not directly in this area, but nearby that may be of interest. We are doing some improvements down in San Manuel. We're doing some median improvements on McNabb Parkway, and I'll show you. Way back when the mines were fully operational, we had a robust community that would take care of these medians, but that is no longer the case. So we did have some complaints that these things were going to disrepair. Some of the larger vegetation was posing some sight vision issues for people pulling out of driveways trying to get onto this road. So it was decided to take these out and put in stamped pavers. So this is the exact same section of roadway before and then almost after. So that's going to reduce some of the unsightly weeds and larger vegetation that just doesn't get trimmed like it needs to. But it's not going to be, there is still a group out there that does have a concern about this, and they do want to kind of beautify this a little more. So we're going to work with them. Some thoughts are to have just some large potters there, or perhaps an old rail car, something that kind of livens it up a little bit, but then also gives credence to, hey, this used to be a mining town. Maybe that mining car would be a good appropriate decoration for something like this. So some of the upcoming activities we've got going on Catalina Hills Drive, we're going to be doing a fog seal and striping, and that will be done in the spring of 2020. Also in the spring of 2020, let's see, and then Parklink Drive, we're going to do another section, basically picking up from where we left off and then going about another mile. So like I said, we got to do this one chunk at a time. It's a long roadway. There's no way we can tackle it all at once, but we'll do what we can when we can. We're also going to continue on with the San Manuel median improvements. And then out at the San Manuel Airport, I'm not sure if you guys visit there, But we did get a couple federal grants. One is it's for obstruction mitigation, and that has a lot to do with the lighting out there. And then also a runway mill and overlay project. These are federal grants that we received, and it's quite the deal. The feds pay 90% and we pay 10%. So the total grants are about a little over $1 million, and for us to leverage that, all we have to do is kick in about $100,000. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andy Smith. Were you going to introduce him? Okay.
Next up is Andrew Smith. Andy's our Deputy Public Works Director. He was just recently promoted in December to Deputy Director. He also serves as the General Manager of the Patel Regional Transportation Authority. We actually lease Andy to the PRTA, and he serves in that capacity. We pay him in Frito-Lay chili chips. He really likes those, so we get a pretty good deal on Andy. He actually has his master's in public administration from Troy University, and he's been in public service about 45 years, I think. Andy?
Good morning. I want to identify that individual that was laughing over there about being a leased employee. We can talk about that later. Good morning. You remember the book, Fortunately, Unfortunately Stories, where the airplane jumps out, the guy jumps out of the airplane and the parachute unfortunately doesn't open, but he lands on a bale of hay, but there's a pitchfork in the hay. Well, the RTA has been a lot like that. Where we're at currently is that the Board of Supervisors in 2015, I'll kind of give you a quick history. Back in 2015, the Board of Supervisors designated staff or staff to go out and figure out ways to build some of this transportation infrastructure. We have about $1.2 billion in need around Pinal County for transportation. What we ended up doing is identifying a regional transportation authority, and so what that is made up of is all the mayors, a mayor or a city council member from each community, as well as the supervisor from Pinal County, basically make up this board, and this is the board that is now the overseer or the presider, if you will, of the transportation authority. And then I obviously work for that particular group of folks. We have a technical advisory committee. We also have a citizens advisory committee. Unfortunately, as I say, through the book process, fortunately, we were able to pass a bill and a plan. Unfortunately, part of this is that the bill that was passed only ends up identifying about $300 million in funds, or $600 million in funding. So that obviously is going to put us a little bit short of what we really need. However, then we get sued, and so now we're being sued, and so we've spent the last 2 years in litigation against the Goldwater Institute trying to figure out if our tax was constitutional based on voter-approved plan and voter-approved tax. So where we're at now is that the appellate court has decided in our favor at a 3-0 vote in favor of the RTA. The caveat is that the Goldwater Institute now has until February 15th to file an appeal with the Arizona Supreme Court, and it's our understanding that they will be doing that. And so then it takes about 4 to 7 months for the Arizona Supreme Court to make a decision if they decide they want to hear it. If they don't, then it's just a matter of doing some paperwork, and we can start to spend the some $30 million that we currently have in that account to start doing these infrastructure that you all approved way back in 2017. So in a nutshell, that's about where we're at. And actually, the 29 million that's on here it's closer to 30. We just got a distribution for December, and it's kind of bumped us just over the $30 million mark. So we're doing really well as far as our forecast, but that's where we're at with the RTA. And at this point, I can turn it over to Mr. Anderson again.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, it's really exciting to know that the appellate court gave us a 3-0 ruling. We're hoping for the best, but as Andy said, we have heard from Goldwater that they will likely be appealing that decision, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. Priority number 4, strategic priority, with our roadmap is financial health. And Leo Liu, our deputy county manager, has been with our county for 10 years, 12 years. He's been our deputy county manager for the past 7, and he's been overseeing public health, public defender, finance, and a handful of other areas. He was also very instrumental in establishing our medical examiner's office. We used to send all of our work to Pima County, and with the board support and Mr. Liu's work, we were able to establish our own medical examiner's office, and we're looking to help support some of the other counties that may want to use our services, because I understand Pima's raising their rates. Leo actually has a bachelor's degree. He's been in the budget director. He's also, as I said, been our deputy for 7 years. Leo started when he was 12 years old.
Well, I'm 14 now, so I've learned a couple of things. So this slide is really about the Board of Supervisors' desire to have an efficient and effective government. It's really about you all getting the best value and bang for your tax dollar. And so probably about 5 years ago, we were at $3.99 on our primary property tax. And that funds most of our general operations, you know, your sheriff's office, your county attorney, the courts, the assessor over here. And so what the board wanted to do is to whittle that down. We want to be competitive. We don't want our property tax rate to be a hindrance to any businesses that want to come in. We don't want it to be a hindrance to residents. And so we are on a steady decrease of that property tax rate. And our goal is to get to $3.75 by 2021. And so another 4-cent decrease is planned for this year, and we'll be at that $3.75. And then the new board, when it comes on, will do the strategic planning again and see where we want to go from there. We want you all to be able to tip your servers a little bit better next year. So another goal is the financial health of the county. And so right now we're at a AA. And put in perspective, AAA is the best. Like a city of Scottsdale is a AAA. That's like an 800, 850 on your personal credit score. And so we're probably right now at a AA, we're probably around maybe a 720, is equivalent to your personal scores. And but it is a very high rating with a very low risk, which is a good thing. And so in the depth of the recession back in 2011, we were at an A+. And so really we went up since then a couple of notches, AA minus, AA. So we're very happy with that, and as the county grows, the economic base continues to grow, we could develop into a AAA rated county. And then our financial stability reserve is another goal and really contributes to that good credit rating. We're at 15% of our general fund revenues. Our general fund revenues are about $200 million, so at about $30 million is what we keep in the bank. We've done a risk assessment, we've done a cash flow analysis, and so the board has really, as a policy and a strategy, want to be at that 15%. If we have a good year and more money comes in, and like this year we're projected to be over 15%, the board can decide where are the greatest needs in the county, where are the greatest investments, and usually we like to match one-time revenues, one-time surpluses with one-time expenditures. So if we had some infrastructure projects, capital improvements, you never want to get out of balance and then budget too much or spend too much that you're not going to be able to sustain in the future. So the board has been really good about doing that, and that credit rating really shows management's ability to keep us on a good structural balanced budget. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Leo. Last but not least is our CFO, Steve Frazier. No, CIO. Information Officer. Steve actually keeps all 2,100 employees going, their laptops, their computers. He's got a large team. He also will identify any cyber attacks when they're coming in to lock us down. Some of the counties, there's been 2 counties this year that have gotten hit with ransomware, and it's cost them or our insurance pool over $1 million to get their data locked free. Steve has actually identified a team member and really has been out front on that, so our county feels pretty safe and secure. Steve's a resident of Casa Grande. He's a native Arizonian, which you don't see very often. And I'll turn it over to Steve. I keep giving him more and more tasks to do because he likes that. And Tim Kanavel actually said we're hiring a new information officer, but actually we're hiring a communications and marketing director, which will work with Steve, and that was one of Steve's assigned tasks. Also, we've assigned him the 2020 census, which is very important. So with that, Steve's going to talk to you about the 2020 census. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Yeah, one of the big jokes is, like Old McDonald's Farm, I get EIEIO, essentially PIO, CIO, and I don't know how many other IOs we can get going there. Part of that, and part of communications, and probably since I've been, not only lifelong Arizona, lifelong Pinal County resident, and 23 years at the county, it's been my third census participating in various capacities for Pinal County. This one's even more exciting than the last, believe it or not. And really, when you think about it, and you think about what we've talked here today, and I think why Mr. Anderson kind of wanted to end with this is the census is kind of all of our citizens, part. It really ties into everything we're doing here, in how especially federal funds and things like that are distributed. So just a little bit of history, and I'm sure all you guys know this. By the Constitution says that every 10 years we will take a census of citizens of the United States. Kind of why they do this, I mean, there's a whole bunch more history. I think Thomas Jefferson oversaw the very first one. But these statistics are used in a number of ways. There's over $675 billion in federal funds that get distributed based on census populations, and the other statistics that go along with those. So it determines how many representatives we have in Congress, and by the numbers of what we're looking at, it's very possible we could get another seat in Congress with this census. So super important that way. Communities rely on these statistics to plan for a number of things, and everything from especially infrastructure, and you heard a lot about that today. Economic development company businesses use these statistics to decide many times if they want to locate in a particular region. So, but everything from roads, schools, social services, things like that, especially that get any kind of funding from the federal government, census is huge. So, and we just really want to know, how many people we have here. What do we need to serve? So kind of when is this happening? And this is kind of right off the census.gov website. You're going to be hearing a lot more about it. The communications on this are just going to start ramping up like crazy all over. You're going to see it in Pima County. You're going to see it from Pinal County of getting out there. But approximately March 12th, folks should start receiving an invitation by mail. And it's changing up quite a bit this year. If you remember in past years, either someone was always knocking on your door, or you had huge long forms to fill out. They're making it very convenient to respond. In other words, the invitations go out, about March 12th, and you'll have, probably through the month of April to respond to that. And it's important to respond to that because they won't come and knock on your door if you respond. So if you don't respond, they're probably going to knock on your door. But traditionally, April 1st is Census Day, so they're ramping up to that now. Invitations will go out by mail, and that'll start. And again, there's some other dates after that. I'm sorry, that's probably a little hard for you to read. But again, kind of through the month of April, they'll send out some reminder cards and stuff if they haven't heard from you on your response. And really the primary goal of the census is just count everybody once, only once, and in the right place. We just want to know where. How to respond. So this is just a little graphic. Over 95% of folks will be notified with an invitation by mail. Those that don't receive it by mail, very small percentage. There's about 5%, say people that have an address but get their mail is not delivered. In other words, have a P.O. box or something like that. Those will be delivered by census representatives, but you're still given the same amount of time to respond. So very, very small percentage, some very hard to count areas where census takers will actually be in the field and going, and for anyone who doesn't respond. So just to let you know how that's going to go. Important. I mean, it's really when you're responding to this, and it's amazing, how many people forget an infant child, maybe a newborn or something like that in the household. It counts, because when you think about only doing this every 10 years, that child is going to be 10 years old by the time the next one hits. So elderly being cared for in the home, infants, count everyone in the household. And for many of you here, I don't know if you winter here, the rule is you can count wherever you live the most. So we hope you pick Pinal County if you are winter visitors, and we want to keep you here. So, and again, respond just to keep them from knocking on your door. Otherwise, they probably will knock on your door. And it's really about just when you talk about all the needs and the infrastructure needs and all of this. This just helps Pinal County. Getting an accurate count helps us get our fair share of the dollars we all pay anyways. So, and just a little statistic, for every person that does not get counted, basically every person is the equivalent of $3,000 per year, times 10. That's $30,000 per person for every that is not accounted for, that we don't get credit for, if you will, in the census. And you do that by about, I think the last census, there was about a 27% non-response rate. You get into a lot of zeros that potentially the region could lose out on with an improper count. So we're really trying to push this. Encourage your friends, your neighbors, everyone. It's pretty painless. You go online, you can respond by mail, by telephone. They're given some really convenient ways to do that. So thank you for your time. I think we'll get into some question and answer, and happy to answer any of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve and Lewis Henderson, for that information. I wanted to make just one additional point regarding the census. In addition to the shared revenue that we get both from the state and the federal government, it's also all about representation. Arizona is based on our population count. Looks like we'll pick up one congressional seat at the federal level. Florida will pick up 3, Texas probably 3. California will probably lose a seat, but it's very, very important when we think not only about representation, that's a way in which we have a greater voice. When it comes to filling out the information and population trends and distribution, supervisor seats are determined, or the districts are determined by census information at our state legislature. Whether you're in LD 11 or LD 8, or whether how they divide those legislative districts is all based on census information. So it's good, that we get the money, but it's also the very, very important point for a free people that we are represented, and represented by the proper number of people. I want to just also, before I go to questions, in District 4, we've been very, very blessed with having a person in the District 4 office who has been with me the entire 7 years, and she has been the go-to person. You often, if you call the district office or you probably talk to her, and she probably helps you solve problems. But Marlene is, would you stand, Marlene Pierce is the District 4 Administrator. And I wish her the best in the future. When it comes to solving problems, she's done really very well in doing that, and I believe that she will do likewise in the future. With that, we're going to open it up for questions. We have 2 microphones, and we encourage this feedback because these gentlemen and ladies that we have brought down from the county really appreciate hearing from you personally, and this is one way in which we get that great feedback. But if you have a question, please come to the mic. Don't try to get your question out there in the audience, but come to the mic. But make sure there's a question somewhere in your comments, okay? All right, let's go to the first question.
I'm not sure this is the correct venue for this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, since it is a Pinal County problem, and especially a Saddlebrook problem. And we have written letters, we've gone out of our way trying to get this thing solved. It is a DirecTV problem. If you live in Saddlebrook and you want DirecTV, you cannot get Tucson channels. Whether it's the Nielsen people or whatever, they have lumped us together. All of Pinal County has to get Phoenix. I'm 100 miles from Phoenix and I'm 30 miles from Tucson, and I don't want to have anything to do with Phoenix.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
a number of years ago, we had a similar problem with health insurance. We couldn't go to a doctor in Tucson because of the Pinal County line is about 2 blocks from here. Well, maybe not even that. Anyway, is there any way, or if you guys could get something done to split Pinal County into 2 so that we can get Tucson channels here?
It is, thank you for the question, and it is a kind of an unusual problem for the county to solve. That's not necessarily right in our wheelhouse, but we've been taking on this problem for about 3 years, trying to work it through the process. We had a staff member dedicated to helping solve this problem, but unfortunately that person was no longer with the county, and so we had to try and pick up the pieces and try to go in that direction as far as solving. I certainly understand where you're talking about, and what you did mention when it comes to emergency response and getting information to you, the community members, regarding something that might be happening in this area. It's important that you're getting your local channels, not those channels from Phoenix. We were making some good progress, and then we kind of came up on a roadblock with the FCC, Federal Communications Commission. I typically, on an annual basis with the County Supervisors National Association, go to Washington, D.C. in the late February, March, and I'll do it again this year. And one of the trips that my offices I hope to be visiting, and hopefully will be productive, is to visit with the FCC and see if there's something from that angle that we can work. But as Lewis Anderson mentioned, Steve Frazier is our Chief Information Officer, and I think he has a little bit of the information that he might be able to share as far as understanding where we're at and what we can go from today. Steve?
Thank you, Supervisor. And yes, after kind of digging through the work that had been done prior, we've actually Mr. Anderson has kind of had me going down this path of trying to uncover all that, and more recently got another staff member involved who has been in contact with the FCC. Unfortunately, we didn't get the answer we really wanted there. She was able to get, actually it's not common to be able to get someone on the phone on the first try at the FCC, but she was able to do that, and they explained the process of actually doing that, and it's very common, mostly on state lines. They said it's a very difficult process to get it within the state because that relies on the digital providers. They're very protective of their areas. It doesn't mean it's impossible. So, it may be a situation where we're shifting focus now to put the pressure on those providers because within that state it relies on the agreements those TV providers have with each other and the territories essentially that are assigned to them. So I know, in some of this there's been some communications with some congressional offices and things like that. What I'd like to see probably pressure, at least, coming together, not let this go to bed. Maybe we put some pressure on those TV providers to kind of redraw those boundaries. You're absolutely right. It makes no sense if you're 100 miles away from Phoenix getting Phoenix way. Even the weather is different down here. So it's but that's just recent. In fact, last week had that conversation with the FCC. So again, not what we wanted to hear. We were kind of at the point where we submit the application to get this done, and the FCC is telling us you can submit it, but it's probably not going to happen because of the rules and how they consider that stuff. So, like Supervisor Smith says, maybe there's some other pressures or some other influence we can exert in a different direction to get some of that done. So just an update on where that's at.
Did you have something?
Yeah, just to follow up, that the information, as Steve mentioned, was individual citizens contacting the service providers and putting the pressure on that away may start the ball rolling, helpfully, depending on the numbers. And maybe the HOAs could help with that as well as a voice to the service providers. It sounded like one of the service providers was somewhat okay with the concept, and then maybe one wasn't. So that may be also a strategy for you.
Okay, let's go to our next question. Let's go over here.
I came late, so I'm sorry if you addressed this already. I am very pleased to hear about the increase in economic development and tourism, but where is the water coming from?
Oh, great question. Do you want to address that, Mr. Anderson?
Thank you for that question. So there's a lot of misinformation out there as far as how much water we have and what's the available water. This down here in this area is all in the Tucson AMA. We have 3 AMAs in the state of Arizona. The Patel AMA, based on the, thanks. I forget to not use acronyms. Active management areas, water active management areas, there's 3 that the state monitors for usage. The area that they have a concern is in the Patel AMA, which is north of here. It's where the Lucid Motors and the Nikola Motors projects are going. And there's a lot of agriculture. Right now, the 1.2 billion gallons, acre feet used, 5.6 is farmland. And one of the things that's happening, farm and dairy are kind of leaving. They use 80% more than our commercial businesses do or our residential homes. So as we continue to progress, one of the things that will naturally happen is we'll see less farm ground and more economic uses. So hopefully that helps your question. The long-term shortage is 100 years from now in the Patel AMA at all the assured water certificates, which not of all are built. In 100 years, they're saying we're going to be 20% shy. So it's not as bad as it seems. We've got a member of our Board of Supervisors on the governor's task force, Steve Miller, who's following this very closely, and we're working on some other initiatives and conservation methods that we can employ with the farmers. So I hope that answers your question. It's not terrible, it's not great, but it isn't. It's more about farming, and the economic development piece actually helps the water problem.
One additional point, and I think, Tim, you can confirm this or deny it, but it's my understanding that the manufacturing industry that we're attracting are not very heavy water users. Is that right? So we can get the jobs and we can get the employment without a marked increase in our water. usage. So that's a good news. Next question.
Yeah, my question's on the marketing piece. So there's quite a few of these 55 active adult communities in the county. Are you aiming any of your marketing strategy around people that don't know anything about this area that are about to retire?
Lewis or Tim? Since I'm getting ready to retire, the answer is yes.
Well, I thank you, Chairman. One of the things we're doing with the tourism is based on that. Certainly not the jobs that we're trying to create with the big companies and things coming in. That's not certainly geared towards the retirees. We understand that. But a lot of the tourism part certainly is. And that's what we want to do. We are trying to put out a different type of tourism that's very interactive for all ages. Not necessarily for kids and 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. We have a tremendous amount of opportunities in this county that are that are really built towards the retirees. And that's something that we're really trying to focus on. Now, as we develop our tourism program, folks, we just started this. I mean, we didn't spend $5 in 140 years on tourism in this county. I don't know why, but we just never did. But we are now starting to spend money on it, and we've got to develop a program. And this is really the second year that we've actually done this. And so we're going to be gearing quite a few more opportunities towards that. Right now, we've got to work with the biggest group of folks we have in the county, and those are the people that are under 45 years of age. So that's what we got to start. So then we'll start branching out. But we got to get started somewhere, so we decided to go ahead with the more active, to bring in a lot of people from elsewhere, but we're also bringing in a lot of the retirees. Probably, since you guys are down here in this area, there's a lot of other things happening around this county that you guys probably certainly don't know about. But that's our fault. We're going to take care of that because we got to do better marketing at it. But again, we want to make sure that everybody understands we're trying to do this for everybody, all age groups, all socioeconomic levels. There's opportunities here for everybody, but we're just putting it all together. And it takes a couple days to be able to put these plans together. And I can tell you probably the next time we come back and do one of these programs, we'll probably have a lot more to be able to tell you exactly how we're gearing that and marketing that towards retirees. One of the big things we're really starting to work with is the veterans. That is something we're really wanting to truly try to focus on, because the veterans have these job skills, folks, that we just can't hardly get anywhere else, and you can't hardly buy those. So that we're trying to figure out what segments we need to really put it to make a great big comprehensive plan. And that's really the best I can tell you, because we don't do anything directly, but we'll be doing it as parts and pieces of other things that we're working on. That help out? Must be.
Thank you, Tim. In Pinal County, we have several, as mentioned, high-quality, over 55 communities. And not only is that a great place, an attractive place for us in our recruitment efforts, but also it helps with the brain trust that we have out there in the audience and in these communities. You are oftentimes people that we tap in order to be an active role in some of our committees and citizen committees, bringing your expertise. And so we appreciate the Saddlebrook people who offer their services in order to help the county, and your volunteerism is very helpful in many, many ways. Next question.
Okay, thank you. Mine's about the San Manuel Airport. I just wanted clarification. Is it a new runway going in at the airport, or are you fixing it? And then could you explain a little bit about who actually utilizes that airport?
Do we have any pilots in the audience? Okay.
Thank you. San Manuel Airport, no, it's not the runway. It's rehab on the taxiways. We actually have hangars that the county owns and leases out. We just secured the airport. We actually we bought it recently with state grant funding. The last 10 years or 15 years, we rented the air park or leased it from BHP and operated it for them. It was an old BHP runway where the executives would fly in. Mostly general aviation. We do serve the fire rangers that go out when we have fires in Mount Lemmon. There's helicopter crews that come in and station there. But the majority of our revenue comes from Patel Air Park. The San Manuel Air Park is not quite break even, but both airports together are an enterprise operation. San Manuel has a waiting list for hangar space. We currently don't have enough land to build more hangars, and so return on investment, bringing in fill and developing that further, it's not in the there's a demand, but it's not in the cards right now. So, thank you.
A general aviation airport in that strategic area, as mentioned, we're working on developing our tourism industry and having an airport in that area, general aviation for fly-ins, for whatever type of activity, I think is in the future. If we, start doing $1 million of business in that area, it's another good access point for people coming to here. Another question?
Good morning. I'd like to thank you all for the job you're doing. I'm going to ask a short question, but just before that, I thought I'd add a clarification. Out at Saddlebrook Ranch, our water system was developed for an average of 7,500 gallons per household per year. And as of today, after the development has been in existence now 6 to 10 years, the average consumption is 4,500 gallons, and we are paying a 15% premium to the water company to pay down on the infrastructure that was installed because we're not using enough water to hit the bond that they had. So you all should be complimented. We're doing well already. My next point and question is, gentlemen, you've done a great job. The comment about not having local TV to alert us, we have the Pinal County warning system. And I just wanted to say this morning that if there's a prairie fire, I want to know right away. If there's a tornado, I want to know right away. But at 3:29 Sunday morning, you called me and said there's a freeze warning. So I just want to ask you to think about when you send these messages out. Thank you.
Very good. Point taken. Sir?
Morning. 2 years ago, I heard information regarding a amusement park that was going to be in the area of 8 and 10 in that corridor. Any other information that's new or relevant so that we know if they're going to build one or not?
Tim, do you want to address that? I know in regard, it's called Dreamport Villages is what it was. The Casa Grande still considers it an active project, to my understanding. Is that right? Well, why don't you come on up, and you probably have better information than I do.
If you're wrong, just blame it on me. Yeah, he's leaving anyway. We can blame him now for everything. January 1st, you've had it. I can tell you that. You're talking about they call it Dreamport Villages, the big water park there at 8 and 10?
Yeah, water park, amusement park.
Yeah, they were having issues with water because they were going to need a tremendous amount of water. And what happened is when they started this project, there wasn't a water issue. Then all of a sudden there became a water issue, so that kind of really slowed things down. That is still a very active project. As a matter of fact, they met 2 weeks ago with the city council in Casa Grande to explain to them where they were going to be able to get their water, how they were going to solve that issue. Now, they've had to change the park parameters, as you can imagine, simply because of that. So now what it was started being, what was announced in the paper, isn't going to be quite the same thing now because they just had to slim this thing down just simply because of that. Water is available, but it's really expensive to be able to bring it. My understanding is they were trying to make some type of contract with the Gila River Indians because they've got a tremendous amount of water resources through the CAP system and certainly their own. And I think that's where they're going to be going with it. However, that's a Casa Grande project, so they don't tell us everything that's going on all the time. A county has a small portion of the project, but right now they're focused on just the Casa Grande part of it. But my understanding is still going, if that guy shows up, is the gentleman that represents the company. He's here quite often, and he comes back here all the time. So the gentleman that owned the property, there's 1,700 acres or something like that.
Right.
He had filed at the city council level to have that reverted back, the zoning reverted back to what it was originally. Then he pulled that like 2 days before it was supposed to go up because of the progress made on this project now. So hopefully we'll hear something soon. I don't know when soon's going to be, but hopefully it's been 4 years, so it's just going to take a long time. But remember, this is a giant project. This is a multi-billion-dollar project, and I'd certainly like to see them I'm sorry?
It'll bring in a lot of jobs.
Correct. Well, and tremendous, a lot of first-time jobs, and certainly, but there's a lot more to that park than just this water place, because they were going to have like a high-tech industrial park and things like that there too. There's rail there, there's interstates, there's 2 interstates right there, and that's something they were going to focus on. So there's a lot of parts to this. I know that they've had to change things, so I don't know what the latest ones are, but I know that we're supposed to have some type of briefing sometime in March. So
Okay,
hopefully
great.
we'll have
I've got the old plans from a couple years ago. Look really great, because they'll have hotels around the area and everything
Correct.
else. So, thank you.
And that's still what they're planning on. It was the housing part of it that was going to be on the Casa Grande mountainside. That is what has been changed. I believe
Okay.
they have taken that out because of the water issue with the homes, subdivided homes. So I think that's what has changed.
Okay,
So the rest of it still seems to be in place.
thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I see Doug Wolf at that microphone, but before she asks her questions, I know Doug is our county assessor, and he's also a homeboy down here. Doug, I know you've got a couple important filing dates that you may want to share with the audience. Could you go ahead and do that, then I'll get right to her question.
Sure. Well, before I do that, I want to thank Tony Smith for his service to Pinal County. We were elected at the same time in 2012, and he's been all about doing what's good for everybody in Pinal County and working with the assessor's office and the recorder and whoever needed help, sheriff's department. Tony was always there to really work together, and we get some really great outcomes, as you can see from the information that's been shared. So thank you for your service. To the citizens, a couple things. One is we always forget to mention that we have 311 service in the county. So if you have a question for any of the county officials, 311 will work. It should connect you to any county office. It'll take you to the call center, get to my office, to Tim Kanavel's office, whatever you're looking for. So 311. At the end of this month, we're completing the exemption period application for widows, widowers, and 100% disabled. So if you're in that category where you may have lost a spouse here in Arizona, you may be eligible for a property tax exemption that goes through my office, and you need to go to Florence to apply for it, but you can go online, pinalcountyaz.gov, and you can see if you, in fact, you would qualify for that. So please take a look. And finally, at the end of this month, you're going to get in the mail from my office, my name on it will say your assessed value for the next tax season, which is 2021 already. So please take a look at that and make sure we've got everything correct. The number that you're most concerned about is called the limited property value, which is what all your taxes are based on for the county and for the school boards and so forth. And I'll be here after the meeting in case anyone has any questions about property tax or valuation, anything that may come up. Thank you for the opportunity, and we have one last question, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Doug. Please?
I have a question on Lago del Oro. We appreciate the striping, but when is it ever going to be resurfaced or at least the potholes filled?
Okay. Mr. Scott Bender.
So I don't have a schedule with me, but once I do get back to Florence, I can check with our pavement preservation folks and find out when that's on the schedule. So I will do that.
Just in addition to that, in our district office, we get calls oftentimes, and we appreciate the calls, but you can also call 311 as mentioned. But if there is what you consider a road hazard, potholes that are being created or some other obstruction, we want to know about that because we want to have safe roads out there and well-maintained roads. We have the crews that go through on a regular basis, but it is always very helpful that the citizens out there who drive those roads every day give us some advance warning or give us the true condition of the road, give us that feedback, and we very much appreciate it. Okay, question, sir?
Yes, it's wonderful to hear about the economic development, but there's not been a single mention about education in the county. All our school systems are losing teachers who are underpaid. Is there any programs or possibility to help support the school systems in the county?
Yes, you elect for a 4-year term a county school superintendent, Jill Broussard. She is the one who elected under her position to help coordinate with the other school systems of various needs. The county is very interested, and we have been working with our educational professionals both at Central Arizona College and our schools. We recognize if we're going to be successful with the workforce recruitment and retention that we know that is going to be needed, we're going to have to start reaching down into our schools at the various early ages. Currently, Central Arizona College has a program that if you're an 8th grader and you commit to go to Central Arizona College, you will be able to, I believe, go to their college free if you make that commitment and you maintain a certain grade point level through that term. There may be some other conditions, but I know there's that relationship. I regularly attend school-related meetings. The school superintendent in my local community call on me very often to be engaged. We want to help and assist our schools in many ways. In fact, I'm going to ask Tim Kanavel again to come to the microphone because I know that he's had some programs and has donated in order to support various educational initiatives within some of the school systems, and he's also the one that really gets it, that link between economic development and education.
Thank you again, Chairman. One of the issues that certainly come up, we just talked about, was about the workforce that we're going to have. We need one for the future, we need one for now. So one of the things that our workforce development group, it's managed by a gentleman, by Joel Millman, who's with the state for years and years. He has put together a program that they're going down to the 3rd grade level in our schools. Now they've just started this program, but it's called Career Path, and it starts at the 3rd grade. Believe it or not, we have to go that far down to be able to get these kids on track. So it's a career path. You want to take a college career path, that's fine. If you want to take some type of skills set, then you can take this. So those are the things that we're going to have to put into place, because a lot of the school systems, again, they're teaching this curriculum, but we want to be able to help and assist that, and also to enhance that by saying, okay, here's different directions you can go. And let me tell you, it's been very successful. As a matter of fact, the folks at Resolution Copper, does anybody work for Resolution Copper or know much about it? But anyway, Resolution Copper up in Superior started working with these kids in the 5th grade several years ago. These kids, I think, are about seniors this year. And a lot of those kids, so they started working with them at the very beginning, teaching them, okay, this is about the mining skills. These are the skill sets you're going to need to be able to work in this mine, because this mine is going to be extremely high tech. It isn't no old wheelbarrow and old pickaxe anymore, folks. It's long gone. Because this will be an underground, and it'll all be done by robotics. There won't be this is so deep that you can't work down there because it's so hot. So they're going to have robots down at the bottom of this thing. So it's all going to be robotic. So they've been working with these kids, and a lot of them are going through this path so that when they graduate, they'll be able to have very, very good jobs right there close to home. So these are the things that they're doing to supplement what some of the school systems are already doing. One of the things about Resolution Copper, they're paying for all of it. They pay for all the computers and everything these kids are going to be using. So that's something that we're looking at, even with like Lucid and also Nicola. Okay, you guys need this set of skill. You guys have to have these skill sets. Okay, you're going to have to help us with the workforce. So if we start at the lower grades, and maybe even high school, even junior high and grade school, help us with this. Help us put out some of the money to be able to put the right type of equipment in front of these kids so they understand it. So they're going to be putting together like welding classes and stuff. There's kids in junior high that can weld, and they're very good at it. So they're already working with that in some other states, so we're going to adopt that same program. So it's a great opportunity because, again, not every kid wants to go to college. Some kids don't want to, some kids can't, but most of them just don't want to go because, again, what's the repercussion from that sometimes? You have a degree, you can't get a job, and you're $100,000 in debt. That's not good. So a lot of these kids can come right out of some type of technical training, and can get a job almost immediately. Some of these kids will be junior or high school kids that will be able to get a job when they graduate, paying pretty good money. So that's one of the things we're doing at that level. The next time we need to have this, next time we have this event, we need to bring Joel here with the workforce, and I think Ed'd give you guys a lot more idea. He's the guy that's doing this, but he can give you an idea of exactly where we're at with the county, because we have to develop our workforce. We can't keep importing people all the time for this. We have to develop what we have, but we have to be able to have the resources, we have to have the money, and we also have to have the drive behind it. We've already got the political will, for certainly at the supervisor level, and all the people and all the directors that we want this to happen, but we got to make this happen at some other platforms too. But it's a great opportunity. I believe the first school they're going to start working with, I believe, is Casa Grande, one of the Casa Grande high schools, I believe, and that's because of Lucid Motors. They're going to get down, they're going to be teaching these kids. They're going to have what they call apprenticeship programs. These are what we're really truly developing. Let these kids get involved. Let them see what it's like. But I think you have to be a sophomore in high school to do this. But to have internships there that these kids can go after school, they'll get school credit for being there at the job. And I know that Abbott Labs, I believe, and Frito-Lay may be doing the same thing. So there's opportunities. There are some changes made. We're trying to fix that. But again, this is all so new, and all these brand new projects are fairly new to us too, but we're going forward with it. I think that's something it will certainly help you realize just to what extent the county's putting this together. This is massive, massive program. And again, everybody doesn't quite realize just how big our county is. We have 500,000 people now. We're a giant county. So all these things are new, so we're new at it too.
And one other thing that Tim didn't mention is from his office, he donates money or gives grant money for STEAM and STEM type projects. That's the science and technology and combined with art. I know that in some of the local communities, if there's a project that in that area, he finds money in his budget in order to help out and promote the kids' education in those areas. I think we're on this side. Okay.
You have shared a great deal of very positive information with us this morning. It's all great to hear. What's the one thing that keeps you all awake at night?
I know Steve Frazier, what he worries about probably, but it is the challenge of workforce. When you talk about the numbers, and Tim has just only shared what we can share with you. There is many other projects and companies that even are larger than Lucid, probably, that have plans on coming to Pinal County. We have, to me, it's all hands on deck for workforce development and retention. So that's, to me, the greatest task, and I've been aware of that for about 2 or 3 years now. Originally, about 4 years ago, our workforce team was coupled with Gila County. And if you understand where Gila County's at, and nothing wrong with Gila County, they're great neighbors to Pinal County, but they had a totally different economy than what Pinal County had and where we were heading. So we had to decouple from that, and that was one of and create a workforce and retool our workforce committee, coupling with the college and the educational elements too. So my answer to the question is workforce development. We just need to deliver on those jobs. Now, one of the advantages that Pinal County has was mentioned, if you didn't get it, we have about half our workforce leaves the county every day. Well, we've got plans, and we have to help it by improving our transportation linkages, widening I-10, et cetera. But is to have those people stay home or stay in their communities or nearby rather than commuting into the East Valley of Ahwatukee, Chandler, Gilbert. Have them go to Casa Grande, have them go to the Coolidge area. We're going to have high quality jobs and the same or less commute. Spend your money in Pinal County, support your communities, participate in your school board, et cetera, and that's how you build community. And that's my biggest thing that I've been working on. Sir?
I don't know if it's still there, but for years there was a sign out here that says Fry's coming soon. I don't know if anybody's got any information on that.
Boy, has that been a disappointment. Do you have any information? We have no information. You know, when I've been here earlier, I'd say, based on the information they're telling me, another 6 months, but I've stopped saying that. I don't know when it's going to happen and or how it's going to happen, but unfortunately it's one of those situations out there, and it's just not happening, and I don't know when it will happen. It's 11:30, and so we can take a couple more questions, then we're going to wrap it up.
Yes, I had a question about bypass road. You had one, I believe, in the 2020 budget that went from 77 down to Catalina Hills. I think it was the Cardonas bypass. Do you know if that's still an active project?
Yes, it is. It's part of the project's high priority project on the RTA, but I'll let Lewis. Okay, so when we're successful, and I say when we're successful winning the lawsuit on the Regional Transportation Authority, that's, I believe, the work that we had to do with the state land department and also the engineering. I think we're pretty well poised. Andy, you have something you want to share? Yeah, it's a phase 1 type project in the RTA plan. So it will get built once we are successful with the RTA.
All right, and then one other question. I was wondering if you could give us any information on I-10. We've got 3 lanes moving both directions now and south of Riggs Road. Will that widening of I-10 continue?
Yes, the governor has given a signal for $28 million in order to widen that stretch of I-10. I believe that the Gila River Indian community is on board, and I believe the $28 million is mainly for design. But Andy, help me out. You probably have a more complete picture on that very important stretch.
Let me back up to Cardonas. Cardonas is designed. Actually, we did it in-house, so that's ready to go. We just need the money so that we can go out and actually build it. And that's kind of where that particular project is. The I-10 is funded. This is where it gets kind of screwy, if you will, but the MAG has a proposition, Maricopa Association of Governments has a proposition 400, and that's in Maricopa County, and they actually have some improvements to widen I-10 from Riggs Road, which is that dividing line between the Gila River Indian Community, Pinal County, and Maricopa County. So they've got funding for that. I was actually just at ADOT yesterday, and they did tell me that they're actually going to be submitting for an infra grant, which is this new funding type of, well, it's not new funding, it's new, but it's federal government money that you can go and apply for through a grant process. And they're going to actually try and apply for about a $600 million grant to fund widening the portion of I-10 that's within the Gila River Indian community. So they're in the process of filling that out. We're going to be looking for some letters and that kind of thing to work through that. And then they're actually, like the chairman said, that we're in the process of working on I-10 as well. And they're all both projects, they're 2 separate projects, but they're both under design right now through ADOT. And so it's just a matter of, it's a timing kind of thing, as well as trying to get some funding, because the Prop 400 funds cannot be spent outside of Maricopa County.
Thank you.
Okay, our last question, please.
I noticed in your handout that the lowest unemployment rate was in May of 2018, 4.1%. Given all the economic development that's taking place in the county and what's scheduled to take place, why is the unemployment rate up then 0.5% from that low level?
Tim, you study the unemployment rate, and there's at some point you're at full employment. What's your comments on that?
Of course, as mentioned, 5% is considered full employment, because 5% of any given workforce population isn't going to work or can't work or just won't. But anyway, so it fluctuates all the time. It'll fluctuate several times. We get a monthly statement. We get it about the 20th of each month, and it changes all the time. A lot of it has to do with seasonal work, because again, at Christmas time, they hire a whole bunch of people. Those people are considered full-time, and then when they leave, then they're no longer considered even in the workforce. But one of the issues that we have all the time is, we were talking about how many people we have per year moved to our county. Well, in some months there's a whole lot, some other months there's not. But roughly a third of any given population, no matter where you go across this United States, so roughly a third of our total population for our county is our workforce. So if we get 12,000 people in a year, we have around 4,000 people are our workforce. They add to it. So that changes. So we've got to keep adding jobs all the time to keep making that low. So please understand, if we gain all these new people, our unemployment keeps going down, which is really dramatically. That doesn't usually happen when you get that many people every time. So these jobs are being created, but the unemployment rate, where it went down to 4.1, that was the lowest we ever had in our history that they've been keeping track. So it's back up to what, 4.6. It fluctuates all the time, but again, it depends on work. A lot of times they'll have contracts that, like Stinger Welding, they'll hire a whole bunch of full-time people. Then when the contract's over, then they lay them off. So that really truly fluctuates it all the time. It never ever remains steady. During the year, the last 12 months, it fluctuates up and down and up and down and up and down. But the lowest it was last year, in 2018, it was 4.1. Next month, it was 4.8. Because a great big contract that Stinger Welding had, they had to lay off 150 people after they hired them. That happens also down at the air park with not Evergreen now, it's called Ascent. But anyway, when they'll do like a 747, so they have to hire a whole bunch of people full time. Then as that contract's over and they rebuild the plane, it's gone, then they don't have those people anymore. So it really, truly, there's just no, the fluctuation on that's actually crazy. It drives it. So we just take a yearly average. So last year our average was 8.5, I think it was. So that's still very, very low. So, but 5% is considered zero unemployment. That's across the United States. They figure that all the time. So when you get down to 3% in some of these areas, or 3%, that's almost critical, because no companies want to move into an area where their unemployment's not at least a little bit high enough to be able to hire. Because then they're going to have to come in and start paying higher wages and start stealing employees from somewhere else. Good problem to have, but for us, but it truly, that happens all the time. So here comes Lucid Motors. They're going to be paying $65,000, $70,000 a year. So everybody else is raising their wages already, so that because they don't want them coming over and stealing their employees. Happens quite a bit.
Thank
that
you.
help?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. As you can see, it is a great time to be in Pinal County. I'm very, very excited for the rest of this year. It's been, for this job as county supervisor, has probably been one of my top jobs in my profession that I've enjoyed, and I appreciate being able to serve you. I want to thank our host, the HOA2 board. Bob, thank you very much for allowing us to come down again. I think it's really very, very important that our staff members come down, and we, like to say, got the A-team down here and giving you all this good information, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day in order to join us also. Bob, do you have something else?
Just a final word. I would like to thank all the folks that are up on the stage, certainly Chairman and Louis Anderson and the others, for taking time out of their very busy day to share the information with us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a great day.